Of the Virtual Boy's huge 22-game library, 11 games were released in both Japan and America, 3 games were only released in America, and 8 games were only released in Japan. 2 of these 8 games were Space Invaders Virtual Collection by Taito and SD Gundam Dimension War by Bandai. SD Gundam Dimension War is the next most rare and expensive game on the Virtual Boy after Virtual Bowling. I've seen it go for $1,000 on eBay. It's a turn-based strategy game based on one of Japan's most popular things ever, Mobile Suit Gundam. It's kinda like Japan's version of Transformers, but without the transforming. Oh, and they have a guy inside controlling them. SD stands for Super Deformed, basically little cute kid versions of the mechs. In this game you control various Gundams on a nice looking grid with the goal of vanquishing your foes. On the grid all you do is choose a unit, tell it to go somewhere, and when you get close enough to an enemy or if they get close to you, you go into battle mode. Here you just try to shoot down the enemy Gundam while flying in space on 2 planes. The controls here are not the best. You push A and B to switch planes and the right D-pad to attack. Down is a close range sword slash, up and right is regular looking shots, and left shoots a couple of bullets at once. The problem is the enemy always moves around a lot and it's hard to even hit it, and the 2 planes don't help either. And there's a time limit, so most often what will happen is you fly around and mash buttons, then the time runs out and back to the grid. The graphics are very nice though, and for some reason I really like grids, and the flying stars seem convincing. I don't know much about Gundam, but these are some of the Gundams that make appearances in this game. Zaku, Gelgoog, Zanzibar, White Base, Rick Dom, Rick Diaz, and the main one you control, that's called Gundam. Is that the height of creativity or what? The story is written in Japanese and I don't know Japanese, but for what I can glean from the internet and Google Translate, it's a pretty generic story about war and Gundams. I have 2 problems with this game. First of all, it's boring. Moving robots around on a grid is not entertaining, no matter how much I like grids. The action part could have saved the game, but unfortunately it's not very fun either. Turn-based strategy is just not my thing. What I wonder is, Gundam is about giant robot suits, right? So why are so many games based on its strategy games? Why not make an action game or 2? Something like Mech Warrior or Street Battalion, perhaps. Don't tell me it wouldn't be awesome to control giant Gundams with that. Space Invaders was a huge hit in arcades in 1978 and has since been ported to everything, and is even going pretty strong to this day with remakes like Space Invaders Extreme on PSP, DS, iPhone and Xbox Live. There's also been pretty laughable attempts to expand on the formula, like Space Invaders Invasion Day on PlayStation 2, where they actually added a story. But the one I'm going to talk about is Space Invaders Virtual Collection. It begins with a pretty nifty animation of the other kind of 3D, polygons. It looks fairly primitive, like something from that old Dire Straits video. There's another one that plays if you hang around too long on the title screen as well. The game modes are divided into 3, Original 2D, Virtual 3D and Challenge. Original 2D is the original Space Invaders from 1978 and Space Invaders 2 from 1980, only in red. Virtual 3D is the same, but the graphics are improved. The perspective is tilted for the 3D effect, and the animations are better. There's also a background, Earth for Space Invaders and some city for Space Invaders 2. I'll have my revenge, and Space Invaders 2. Challenge mode has time attack and score attack. In time attack you have 1 life to try and survive as long as you can and get the longest time. In score attack you play like normal and just try to get a high score. Of all these, I prefer Virtual 3D. It has the best graphics and seems to control a little better too. For what I can tell, there's no gameplay difference between Space Invaders and Space Invaders 2, at least none that I can notice. And for me personally, I don't think Space Invaders has aged all that well. You can only shoot 1 shot at a time, there are no power-ups of any kind, and the shields or buildings or whatever it's supposed to be get in the way more than they help. I have mixed opinions on the music. On the other hand, it's just blop, 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 blop. But the way the blopping increases in tempo as the aliens get closer, that's cool and makes the endgame pretty intense. Space Invaders Virtual Collection has a fair amount of content, but it's all just Space Invaders. It's rare too, it has a steady price of $300 on eBay. If you're a collector, go ahead and buy it, but if you want to play it as well, I can't quite recommend it.